With the arrival of Phase 1 of the alpha for Elite Dangerous Odyssey, there's quite a lot of new content to look at. In this video, I want to look a little bit further than that though, and talk about some information for the future alpha phases, as well as some potential insights for beyond release. So let's take a look at that. Now, this video will be split into two sections, the first containing information that has directly been confirmed by Frontier. The second section is a little more speculative, but based on limited evidence discovered by the community. Recently, along with quite a large number of other YouTubers and live streamers, I was invited by Frontier to a presentation on Odyssey. This same presentation was also given to the gaming press around about the same time. To be perfectly clear, the presentation didn't contain any insider information or any secrets, more's a pity. It also didn't contain a demonstration of the game or even any footage. What it did contain was an overview of the alpha phases along with details on Odyssey itself. With the release of alpha, the majority of this information is now available by simply playing the game firsthand. However, I do have a few details which so far Frontier haven't publicly talked about, so I want to discuss those right now. In later phases of the alpha, Odyssey will open up the new points of interest. Some of these POIs will be very different to what we have in Horizons. They will also contain valuables that can be salvaged. It will be possible to encounter scavengers and criminals at these locations, which will be in the form of NPCs who will compete with you for the available resources. Details on how this all works and what the POIs will actually look like was vague, but the general principle is that players will be able to locate the points of interest from space using the Discovery Scanner, and then travel all the way down to the planet, directly interacting with these POIs on foot. It's also worth mentioning that Frontier said the distribution system for points of interest had been changed and improved, and also all the current batch of Horizons POIs have been reworked. Moving on, Frontline Solutions is a mercenary organisation. We've all seen their booth in the stations and outposts around about now, and players can sign up here in order to fight for a faction and support the war effort. Frontline Solutions will work similar to Apex. Once you sign up at the desk, you'll be able to board a dropship, which will take you into the combat zone. Players will be dropped into combat from a ship. A screenshot was shown at the presentation where players could be seen strapped into a harness inside the dropship, and I assume that screenshot was reflective of how it will actually work when released. Now, when in combat, if a player dies in the combat zone, they will respawn back inside the dropship. The victory conditions for the combat zones involve killing enough of the enemy and their reinforcements. There was no information on how many players a single combat zone can support. My understanding is that these combat zones will work very much the same as conflict zones do in space now, which means there will be a mix of PvE and PvP in the same area. Access to Frontline Solutions should be available in Phase 2 of Alpha. Now, as you will have seen by now, Odyssey brings two new ranks with it. These are the Mercenary and Exobiologist ranks. Beyond this, all ranks have been extended beyond the Elite rank. With Odyssey, it will be possible to progress to a new Elite Plus rank. It wasn't clear if this will be available to all players or only owners of Odyssey, but basically it means there will now be 6 individual ranks that can all progress to a rank of Elite Plus. Now, as is common with these types of presentations, it was possible to ask questions. However, Frontier restricted these questions purely to subjects on Odyssey rather than the wider game or indeed the future of the game. A couple of points to note here. Frontier stated that Odyssey won't contain any new SRVs on release. However, there is another side to that which I will talk about further into the video. Also, it was made clear that the development on Odyssey didn't focus on fixing bugs in the main game. While some bugs will be fixed, we shouldn't expect a massive list of fixes. Personally, I feel that is a massive shame, as there's a ton of long-standing bugs that are way overdue for being fixed. An unfortunate note then to end this section on. Now, I want to make it very clear that nothing beyond the release of Odyssey was discussed or revealed, so I have no special insight as to what to expect next, what Frontier's future plans are. However, a few players have recently been digging through the Odyssey Alpha game files and have discovered a thing or two. I fully realise that not everyone likes this method of discovering information, and that other people certainly won't want these types of spoilers. So, if you don't want to hear anything else, then stop watching now. The new information comes from a Reddit post made by Commander Luna Sitara. After taking a look through the various game files, a few things were noticed. Keep in mind that nothing here is confirmed, but past experience shows that some stuff found in game files does get released in the end, but also that a whole load of stuff simply never turns up. So what was found? Well, references to the Panther Clipper, a long-awaited ship. These have been in the game for quite a while now. However, with the Odyssey files, they have been updated. The game files now contain a full model, full resolution textures, as well as a full shipyard description for the ship. The shipyard description reads as follows. The Panther Clipper LX is one of the largest ships likely to be owned by a private individual. It is also the largest ship that will fit in the internal docking bays of a space station. Piloting one requires real skill. Its cargo carrying capacity is massive, although, like most transport ships, it is lightly armed and poorly armoured. This ship requires a large-sized landing pad to dock on. The ship then is called the Panther Clipper LX. Now this doesn't mean that the ship is ever going to be in the game, but it certainly looks as though the assets for it are there. The old references to the Titan, which is believed to be a Thargoid mothership, have also been updated with references to fog and weapons firing, so possibly, theoretically, this may be coming sooner rather than later. There's also some further references to Thargoids, which include Thargoid Regent, Thargoid Soldier, and Thargoid Worker. And finally, there's that reference about the SRV, the thing I was hinting at earlier in the video. The reference to the SRV is simply called SRV Scorpion. No other details. The full Reddit thread can be found linked in the video description. For now then, the focus of most people is very much on the current rollout of Alpha. However, some people will certainly have their eyes on the future. Odyssey brings with it new foundations for Elite. Whether or not Frontier will build upon these is completely unknown, however. But there are a lot of opportunities which include ship interiors, player-owned buildings, fleet carrier interiors, and more. So, what are your thoughts? Could Odyssey be the potential final update for Elite? Or will Elite carry on for decades, similar to EVE Online and World of Warcraft? And ultimately, what would you like to see added after Odyssey?